great tools and analyzers that will really help you improve your mixing and your mastering. In this video, I'm going to share 3 of my favorite ones, the best ones. There's many good ones out there, and these are just 3 that I use a lot. These are things we really should be looking at: frequency analyzers, metering for loudness, checking the stereo field or phase issues. As producers, we are told to trust our ears. But what happens if we're inexperienced or we don't quite know how things should sound yet? In that case, let's use our eyes. There are some great tools and visualizers to help us with this. So if we don't trust our room, or we're not experienced, or if we're in the unfortunate position of being deaf, Beethoven, then you can use these tools to help you out. Let's jump in. Number 1, Voxengo Span. So the first tool we're going to look at is probably my favorite one and most used one, a free plugin that you can download from somewhere. It's essentially a frequency analyzer. So if I just show you how it works. So what you can see happening is it's showing the amount of energy, the amplitude on this axis and the frequency on this axis. So these are all hertz and kilohertz. These are decibels. We're looking at the low frequencies, the mid frequencies and the high frequencies over there. It's got a really great visual display, a really good GUI or GUI if you're in the US. GUI. There's all these great presets up here. So if I go to stereo mastering, let's say, it's going to show you the slower average sound, but we can also go to, let's say, mid side. You can see the mid there and the side behind it. And you can flick between them. There's a load of great modes, and it's just really helpful for you seeing what frequencies are going on. And say if you're in a room that isn't particularly well acoustically treated, this will allow you to get a second set of eyes on your audio. So a frequency analyzer like this is amazing. Number 2, isotope insight. I mainly use this for the Lissajous. The Lissajous? Lissajous. I have no idea if you say that correctly. This thing. So this shows you the stereo field and the phase essentially. So if you've got, let's put a gain plug in, let's make it mono. You get a straight vertical line down there. If you go to the left, that axis. The right, you get that axis. And if you're stereo, you get all the energy around here as well. But if you invert the phase, it goes horizontal. You can also see down there you're in -1 rather than +1, which means you're in phase. Back in phase. This is just one feature of Insight 2. There's also a spectrogram, this thing. Basically showing you a heat map of where the frequencies are. So down the bottom, 100 hertz, and then so on up to 20,000. You can kind of get a feel for what the frequencies are doing in your mix. I prefer the spectrum analyzer. I just find it a bit easier to read than this, but I sometimes do look at this as well. It also has metering. I prefer number 3 for my metering, my loudness, my RMS, my LUFS, my LUFS, my DR, dynamic range, TR5 metering by IK Multimedia. And I don't actually use any of this stuff over here, not really. I just tend to use it for this little window here. So we've got our peak reading, what is the loudest part of the song. We've got the RMS here, which is essentially the average. I think it's taken every 300 milliseconds, but this gives you a basic average of how loud your song is. I used this before I learned about LUFS, and RMS has always been good to me. So I actually tend to use RMS probably more than I use LUFS. The next one, LUFS. This is currently having its heyday. It's the most popularly talked about, and it's like, oh, it has to be -14 LUFS for Spotify. No, no, no. If you're creating your music and you're basing it on how loud a number should be, and you're doing that for Spotify's optimization, you're doing it all wrong, in my opinion. If you turn off normalization in Spotify, you'll see that none of the songs, none of your drum and bass, none of your pop, none of your R&B, have they been mixed, mastered to -14 LUFS. They haven't. That's Spotify's guideline. My advice here is to check out what other people in your niche, in your genre are doing, and aim for that. Skrillex, he's doing -3. Noisier drum and bass stuff, -3. Like pop stuff, -8, -7, -6, all different numbers. Oops. I understand you need a reference, an area to aim at, but if you aim for -14, your stuff is going to sound quieter than the commercial stuff. I wouldn't recommend going to -14. You might not be aware, but LUFS is weighted, so it's trying to replicate how we as humans hear stuff, how we perceive loudness. So it's not true average, but it's our perceived average. That's why it's slightly different from RMS, root mean square, average. And the final one, DR, dynamic range. I like this one, and it's not one that gets talked about too much, but this measures the difference between the loudest peak and the RMS, I believe, also called crest factor. It's a figure for telling you how much dynamics are left in your track. So if you squash the hell out of your track with a limiter, and you've got 2 or 3 in the DR, even I've seen 0 in the DR, which means there's no dynamics left at all, then you're probably in trouble. But 4, 5, 6, 7, that's a safe place to be. So there you have it. 3 main tools that you can use to help improve your mixing and your mastering. If you have any questions, please let me know. So if you want to finish more music, get better sounding music, head to ammusic.co.uk to find out more information. See you later.